Ahoj, já vás zdravím u dalšího videa. In this video I'm going to talk about prepositions of time. This topic was suggested by one of my viewers who sent me an email and asked about these specific three prepositions. Během, za, při. These three prepositions can be sometimes confusing because in certain cases they can be translated as during. So if you want to translate during into Czech, you would wonder which one of these would be the best fit. Does it matter? Of course it matters. Let me show you. Today you're going to understand how these prepositions work. Jdeme na to. Dobrý den, vítejte na mém kanále Czech by Zuzka, kde vám pomocí angličtiny vysvětluju českou gramatiku. I would also like to point out that these prepositions need specific cases, as always. Během is always followed by the genitive case, that's why I use the orange color. Za, however, can be followed by three different cases depending on the use. In my other videos, I have introduced za with the accusative or instrumental, but that's a little bit different case. Mostly when we talk about in how much time something's going to happen, that would be in the accusative case, or when something is behind, za mnou, behind me, that would be the instrumental. This is not what I'm going to talk about today. I will focus on za being used as a preposition of time, meaning as during, with the genitive case only, in very specific context, and you will see when. I wrote při in green color because that will be followed by the locative case. Let's start with the preposition během. Během can be commonly translated as while or during. It comes from the word běh, which is run, so this is like in the course of as well. Remember that it's followed by the genitive case. So let's first take a look at these 5 expressions, time expressions, during something, and then I'll give you examples of full sentences. Během vystoupení, during the performance. Vystoupení, this particular noun with this ending doesn't tell us that it's the genitive case, but it is. Během přestávky na oběd, during lunch break. Během přestávky, přestávka nebo pauza, break. Během víkendu, during the weekend or over the weekend. Během víkendu. Během války, during war, while the war was happening. Během lekce jogy, během lekce. During the yoga class. Let's see some examples. Během vystoupení. Během vystoupení mi 5krát zvonil mobil. My cell phone rang 5 times during the performance. Během vystoupení mi 5krát zvonil mobil. Během přestávky na oběd. Během přestávky na oběd si zařídím pár věcí. I'll take care of a few things during my lunch break. Během přestávky na oběd si zařídím pár věcí. Během víkendu. Tohle se naučím během víkendu. I'll learn this over the weekend. Během války. Během války si lidé pomáhali. During the war, people helped each other. Během války si lidé pomáhali. Během lekce jógy. Během lekce jógy si obnovíte energii. You will regain your energy during the yoga class. Během lekce jógy si obnovíte energii. All these expressions focus on something that happens during a specific period. Something happening during a certain time span. All these expressions emphasize the duration of time. This is not something that happens quickly. Vystoupení, performance, it's something that lasts at least an hour and a half. So it's a decent period of time. Přestávka na oběd can last at least 30 minutes. It's not just a quick moment. Během víkendu, here the weekend lasts 2 days. Během války, that can last for years and years. Během lekce yogi, probably 60 or 90-minute class. All these emphasize that something happens during a specific time. Like here. Vystoupení, the performance, for example, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. vystoupení. Během vystoupení. All this time frame, 2 hours. And my phone rang 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Během vystoupení mi 5krát zvonil mobil. Now let's take a look at the preposition za used with the genitive case. I would like to reiterate that za is not always followed by the genitive case, but in this video I am focusing on this specific context. And that is when we have a specific historical context often. Za in this case could be translated as during, in the time of, or under the rule or period, regime, etc. Za druhé světové války, during the Second World War. Za komunismu, during communism. Za vlády Karla IV. During the reign of Charles IV. Now you might remember that in the previous chapter I gave an example with během války, during the war. So why am I saying za války, za druhé světové války? They are very much the same. I could say během druhé světové války a za druhé světové války. But there is a small difference when I say za and the genitive case. Like I said, there is historical tone. We emphasize that it was in the time of, with a little bit more historical or situational tone. However, if you said během druhé světové války, it's not a mistake and it doesn't sound strange. Let's see this in context. Za druhé světové války zemřelo mnoho lidí. During World War II, many people died. Za druhé světové války zemřelo mnoho lidí. In the time of World War II. Za komunismu. Typical. When you mention a certain regime or reign of an emperor or king, it's typical with za and the genitive case. Za komunismu bylo těžké cestovat. During communism, it was hard to travel. Za komunismu bylo těžké cestovat. If you say během komunismu, it's not a mistake. It's a possibility. Za vlády Karla IV. Za vlády Karla IV. Praha vzkvétala. During the reign of Charles IV, Prague flourished. Za vlády Karla IV. Praha vzkvétala. This is a very nice verb. Vzkvétala. Vzkvétat, to flourish. We could say během vlády Karla IV. It's not typical, but it's possible. So remember, za would be typically connected with a historical context. For example, during the reign of a certain king, during a regime, za komunismu, za socialismu, za diktatury. And now it's time for the preposition při, which by the way I also covered in one of my earlier videos where I talked about how to use při in all kinds of contexts. Here I want to focus specifically on the meaning of during. Při is followed by the locative case, always. We could translate this as at the time of something happening, while, or sometimes during. Při refers to something that's happening at the time of another event. So we use při when there is a context of something else going on, while doing something. For example, při jídle, while eating, during meal. Při obědě, during lunch. Při práci, while working, during work. Při této příležitosti. This is a very common collocation. On this occasion. Při tom, as two words, při tom, you use this when you want to talk about someone doing something while he or she is doing something else, like simultaneously doing two tasks. So you would typically have a verb here. Someone's doing something while he or she does something else. Přitom literally means while that, přitom. I'll tell you more in a minute. And při is also used when we talk about a coincidence of a specific situation, circumstance, state, or condition, such as an illness. So this is very typical. For example, if you look for medicine or herbal teas that can help you for cough or for allergies. So for example, čaj při alergii. When you look at some herbal blends, they could use this specific preposition, při alergii, during allergy, like for allergies, or literally for when you have an allergy. In fact, my mom is an herbalist. She picks her own herbs and then she makes herbal blends. And she has a list of teas that people buy when they have a cold, when they have allergies, when they have problems with acne, etc. You have a list here. Let's see some examples. Při jídle. Při jídle se o tom bavit nebudeme. We won't talk about it while eating. You could also say při obědě. We won't talk about it during lunch. Při jídle se o tom bavit nebudeme. Při práci. Při práci poslouchám hudbu. I listen to music while working. Při práci poslouchám hudbu. So I work and I listen to music simultaneously. Při této příležitosti, remember this very good collocation, on this occasion, při této příležitosti vám něco chci oznámit. You can use this in formal situations when you want to announce something. This means, on this occasion, I want to announce to you, bla, bla, bla. Při této příležitosti vám něco chci oznámit. Verča jí a přitom kouká do mobilu. Verča eats while looking at her phone. Verča jí a přitom kouká do mobilu. So we have two actions happening at the same time. You could say, someone is doing something, Verča jí, a přitom kouká do mobilu. I could actually add a, because typically you would have a přitom. And during that, he or she does something. We have two simultaneous actions, jí a kouká do mobilu. Something occurs in connection with another event. You might be asking, can we use během? Okay, během jídla would also be okay. Během jídla se o tom bavit nebudeme. Během práce, it's okay as well. Během této příležitosti, as it's a collocation, this one sounds better. Během toho also doesn't work the best. Během alergie doesn't work when you talk about specific condition. Remember that při, unlike během, is when you talk about an occasion. The occasion is we're eating, but on this occasion we're not going to talk about it. Při jídle, při práci, on this occasion while we're working. So for example, you cannot say při válce. You would say během války or za války. Za války would be focusing on the historical event when you are setting the stage, what happened. Při válce sounds like an occasion to do something, so we don't use that. We talked about během being used with a time span. We talk about duration. Something that goes on for a certain amount of time. Během vystoupení, meaning this performance took some time. However, here we could say při vystoupení if we wanted to emphasize that on the occasion of the performance, while the performance is happening, při is connected with specific words, specific occasions. So, for example, při jídle, při práci, při této příležitosti. Those are very, very typical. Remember, při focuses on the occasion. There is this occasion, this opportunity to do something. Během simply states neutrally that something happens during that event. Během lekce yogi. While the yoga class is going on, we can do something all this time. Během lekce yogi. If you said při lekci yogi, sounds more like an opportunity. I have an opportunity. While there is yoga class, I can do something. Při lekci yogi si vyřídím e-maily. If you are not into yoga, you could say, well, I'm gonna go there, but I'm not gonna do yoga. I'm gonna answer emails instead. There are certain expressions that are more typical with během and some expressions that are more typical with při. Během is more neutral. Za, as I mentioned, is connected with some historical events. When you tell that something happened during someone's reign, you set the stage for some kind of a story as well. Při is often connected with an occasion, with an opportunity. Okay, enough talking, let's get to work. Your task is to complete the translation. All these 6 sentences are missing the preposition za, během or při in a specific case. Remember, we'll be using the genitive or the locative case. Pause the video while you work on this. Číslo 1. I watched him while he was working. Pozoroval jsem ho při práci. Při práci, or you could also say během práce. Při práci focuses on that opportunity. Maybe you want to evaluate that person. Do they perform well at work? You're observing them while they work. při práci, that's your opportunity. Or you could also say během práce. During this period when he was working, I was looking at him, observing him. Za práce is out of question here. Číslo 2. Jak vypadal kulturní život za okupace? This is a typical example when we have historical context. So za okupace during occupation. Během okupace is okay too, with less emphasis on the history. Při okupaci, no. Also makes it sound like the occupation was something that lasted for just a few hours. Při is usually an event that would last shorter period of time. Číslo 3. Systém e-call se aktivuje pouze při nehodě. In the event of an accident. At the moment when this is happening, when you have an accident, when it happens, the system activates. This is something quick. If you say během nehody, you're suggesting that it takes some time to activate, that it activates during this whole time as the accident is happening. But in fact, we want to say that it's quick, like as it happens, při nehodě. Číslo 4. Během jednoho léta jsme najeli 35 000 kilometrů. Během jednoho léta. Během is perfect because we are talking about the course of one summer over the summer. Při jednom létě is not correct. It's not an event. Za jednoho léta doesn't work either. It's not a historical event. Číslo 5. Za občanské války bylo město zdevastováno. Another typical example for za. Během občanské války is also acceptable. Číslo 6. Jaká bylina se používá při nachlazení? Při. There is a specific circumstance. This event of being ill, of having a cold. Během nachlazení would also work. In that case, you would simply want to know which herb are you supposed to use for tea all this time while you have a cold. Whereas when you say při nachlazení, you talk about the condition. There is a condition that you have a cold. Okay, this is all from me. I hope this cleared things up for you. I assume you have some questions, so go ahead and drop a comment. I'll be happy to answer. If you would like to revisit the topic of prepositions, check the playlist, Common Czech Prepositions. And I'm gonna tell you a little secret. I will be working on a new ebook which will be focused on prepositions. But give me time. Děkuji, že jste se dívali, mějte se krásně a za týden na viděnou. Ahoj!